Off without a hitch. How you like that? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Diet Mountain Dew has never tasted so good early in the morning. Yes, indeed. The damaged Nate Lowe bobblehead. I don't come as prepared with all the accoutrement today, but here's your clock, Josh. Your clock. Whoo! I'm still stunned. This is the Texas Porch. Texas talk with a touch of sports, proving he is a great friend. It is Josh there to give the Astros perspective in all this. I'll tell you now, there is not enough time in the day to get all of the angles in both of these. So I'm sure we will be back here very soon to cuss and discuss on this one. Still very stunned. This is the most happy I've been in a long, long time. And going to save a lot of why this makes this so happy because there's a little bit more baseball to be played. But Josh, how are we feeling?
Not great, but it's okay. We were discussing before we went on air. Whenever you just get punched in the mouth like that and it's over by about the fourth inning for the most part, it makes it a little bit easier to handle, at least in the moment, maybe not for the long term, but yeah, you kind of get to accept that the Astros aren't winning that game at about the fourth or fifth inning. Whatever, it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, wasn't it crazy? I'm just going to dive right in here. All the good stuff, like this episode, helps it with the AI overlords on Facebook, YouTube. Have the Twitter pulled up here too. If we have any of the friends, there we go. We have a couple already. Yes, it is on YouTube, Mom. Yes, it is. Rangers in Game 7 continue the unlikely trend and win the road game. Every team that was on the road won that series, won the games that eventually decided the series 2 years after a 100 loss season, 6 consecutive losing seasons in the Texas Rangers are going back to the World Series. It had that feel early on, Joshua, that first off, can I give my recap? Would you like to guess? Because I don't think I told you if I was actually able to avoid the score or not. Would you like to take a gander if I was able to avoid the score? Because I think you have a general idea, but do you have any predictions on the story I'm about to tell you?
My only guess is I didn't hear from you until like 12:15 when I was about to go to bed. So I'm guessing you were successful, or maybe I guess my ultimate guess you saw that they were up 3-0 early, and then you didn't hear anything after.
How do you do it? Yeah, that's. I was gonna say, well, you almost got it. You got part of it right, but yeah, I had day job duties, glad day job duties. Just one of those things. You got to be a big boy and put on the big boy drawers and go and do. And I had everything set up perfectly to where I would not see the score. And I saw one score, and it was after they got the 3 runs in the first inning. And I thought immediately, well, it's better than the other way around. At least I don't know about you. From my perspective, it was better on that sense. But then I avoided it the rest of the way, and I was able to get all nerdy and time up to sync. Sirius has this feature you can back up an hour by an hour, and I timed it perfectly. And I was able to live it essentially live because there are a lot more runs that were scored in the game that the Rangers definitely needed. But it is a weird sensation. It's hard to know what this winning thing feels like until you actually feel it. As a guy that's been on the other side, I know you can appreciate it. But they got those early runs, and that wasn't enough. We knew that we talked about it going into the game that Scherzer would have to have some help. He got a little bit of that help, but it was a Rangers game, like it was pretty much the whole season, where the fourth inning was the big difference maker. And they got enough pitching, but it was like the story of their season. The offense won them that game. And I still can't get over that the road team won every game in that series. Isn't that one of the crazy factoids that come from this? Thank you, Mom. Pouring one out for Mattress Mac this morning.
Well, I mean, the Astros have experience with it. They're the one team that's done it and they did it twice, and they lost both of them. So at least they're consistent in that area. But man, they were bad at home all year. Like you'd assume they'd win one at some point, but I, those road to home numbers were just crazy. I think 56-30 and 40-46. Like bad teams do. I mean, bad teams go 40-46 at home, or I mean, they don't go 40-46 because they don't play that many games. But bad teams have a losing record at home, and they're awful on the road. So just a weird season.
It's weird because the Rangers were dominant at home this year and kind of suspect on the road. Like most teams, you want to, okay, let's split 500 on the road. But it was the exact opposite for the Astros. They were dominant on the road and they were just suspect at home. But I never thought I'd be watching a Rangers postseason game in the 8th inning this year with Aroldis Chapman pitching in the 8th inning and not being nervous. And maybe it's just me, but in that 9th inning still, when the Astros, of course, Altuve hits the leadoff homer off Pica off Leclerc, and then I'm still like, okay, it's not over because I've been so scarred by that bullpen, but it's still sinking in. It was one of those nights of sports happiness that you can read it to confirm what I text you. Is like, I just can't function on that little sleep. I've been a sleeping guy as of late, and it's still all a bit blurry and hazy. Doesn't really sink in right now, but I guess by Saturday night and Friday night it will.
Yeah, it'll sink in, and then if you're lucky, hopefully even better, it'll sink in after a World Series title, maybe. So I guess the Rangers do have home field, and that's. I mean, y'all been to the World Series before, so
that did not end well, Josh. I don't know if you remember, it did not end so well.
Well, both our teams have been to a couple World Series that didn't end well. So, but getting there is massive, and especially where they came from just 2 years ago. I mean, the 102 losses or whatever it was. I think it's. I mean, the general aspect of sports that we just love is everybody always says nobody expected us to do that. Kirby Smart says nobody expected us to do it for the Georgia Bulldogs, but I think it's safe to say that nobody expected the Rangers to be here at this point. Maybe once they got to the series, and there were plenty of people that were picking them, not the majority. But if you would have said at the beginning of the year, if we would have done we did our preseason podcast, if at the beginning of the year you said Rangers are going to go to the World Series, they're going to beat the Astros in the ALCS, I would have laughed at you, just because you probably would have been joking. But
yeah,
they pulled it off, so that's something for them.
I think they would never tell you this. I think honestly, Chris Young would tell you that, and Bochy would tell you that too. That come on, in the closed door meetings, hey, maybe we've got a 3-year plan. Let's not mention Freeze, Kevin says. But his name is coming up later on in the presentation, David Freeze. But even the biggest execs will tell you, you just never know. You just got to get there and just think of the swing of emotions. We've talked about this trip many times when by that little secret passageway, we found our great parking spot. You held my hand and helped me over the railroad track. And like we're going into a foreign country, we dipped under a fence and found this great parking spot. And the Astros absolutely bludgeoned the Rangers. And even this series in Arlington, there was that close, was that game 4, game 3. And the game 5 obviously was close too. But the Astros own the Rangers up in Arlington. But then the Rangers come back in this series. And what had been a house of horrors so many years for the Rangers, and getting that silver boot crammed up the backside so many seasons, and not going to lie, for the Rangers to do it that way against that team that I told you this series early on, they're great. That was after game 5. Yeah. The Astros are great. They're the Kings. They're the champs. And that was, I told you were all, I don't know. It was all a blur. For them to do it against the Astros was especially gratifying. If I can, that'd be totally disingenuous if I said it wasn't. But man, this is going to be a rivalry, I think, for a long, long time. You speak on behalf of Astros Kingdom. my kind of touching nerves there, or is that obviously accurate? Like we're prone to make obvious points on this show.
No, totally accurate. And I think the Rangers are set up. I mean, they obviously paid plenty of money for some of the big guns that are on that team, but they've got some young talent, so they're set up to be good for a long time. The Astros window, I think, is still there for 3 to 4 years. Fans don't want to see that right now in the moment of it, but they're not losing a whole lot from this team. They're losing. I mean, we can go into that later if we want to, but they're not losing just a ton. So this set up to be a really big rivalry for at least 3 or 4 more years. Whenever they're both really good. I just had one observation or one thought. This isn't really an observation. The Astros won the Silver Boot this year, and so they get to keep it. But do they dare put that thing on display next year? Like, they've got it in the team shop where they go.
Please.
But I'm gonna let you know the first time I go, because that's gonna be the most ridiculous thing ever if they have the Silver Boot there on display in a year that the Rangers beat them in the ALCS to go to the World Series. Especially if the Rangers win the World Series, because if the Rangers don't win it, then you're still like, well, they still didn't win. But at the same time, it's surely that just gets lost for like a few weeks, or they just compromise and let the Rangers have it and said, you won the series that really mattered.
Even better. That would be fun, and we've got to make that happen together. Okay, like, just get a picture next to it. Like, what are you going to do? But it's got to go in Ted Cruz's office somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe he could get in it. That would be that'd be glorious. Did you see he actually commented to Rolling Stone or something about that, saying how he was with the Astros and they won the World Series? Which obviously we're both not superstitious people, so it doesn't matter if he's there or not. But it's just hilarious that it worked out that way.
Yeah, the jokes write themselves. The jokes really do write themselves, but I think Astros marketing is already thinking, we're probably not going to display the Silver Boot this year. But, man, okay, obviously I'm a mess in a good way, but I did jot down a few notes that 2 big things that had to be mentioned. And if you do have to bolt, I know you with our little goblins. Yeah, Ted Cruz called them the Dallas Rangers. I guess I sent you that text. That's what Kevin's speaking of here. But the way they won it was 2-factor. Obviously, a lot went into it. Observation of the century, but it starts with Bruce Bochy. Even though Chris Young brought him there, the tone was set, and the highs and the lows. And I guess I was starting a point, never really finished it earlier back in that mid-September beatdown up in Arlington, that I had no hope. You had to listen to me whine for the 2.5 hours or so until we had our drop-off point. I didn't think this was in the cards. No way. I didn't think this was in the cards after the Rangers farted and fell down to Seattle. I didn't think this was in the cards after Game 5, and Altuve just reached into my heart and crushed it with his tiny, teeny little hand, reached into my heart and just crushed it. I was like, no, the Astros will win. And that's being 100% genuine. Call me sports pessimist, but that's just what I truly felt. But that's sports, man. That's sports. That's what they give us. And I'll never quit you, sports. I will never quit you. I've thought recently, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But I surely will never quit you, because you truly never know. But the way Bochy, he's the 3rd manager to take 3 teams to the World Series. His first season, I was listening to Dallas Sports Talk today, and he was coaching his grandchildren this time last year. Chris Young, a couple of trips to Nashville over chicken salad sandwiches, convinces him to come and eventually coach a pennant-winning team. That doesn't happen. That's crazy. Baseball gods were smiling. And how has he never lost a Game 7? I'll know how, because he's Bruce effing Bochy. That's how he's never lost. And he keeps the calm hand on there. Adolis Garcia, the ALCS rightful MVP, 4 straight games with a homer. He almost had a 3-homer game. The most RBIs in LCS history. He has 20 RBIs, one behind David Freese. So we will mention David Freese here this morning. For the most RBIs in one postseason, you've got to think, whether it's the D-backs or the Phillies, he'll pass that. So those are the two things I had to get out. There's obviously a lot of supplemental storylines, Joshua, but you don't get there without Bochy, and you don't get there without the series from Garcia, and you don't get there without also kind of a 1B, the way you got 2 wins from Jordan Montgomery, and you got the other 2 wins from the Alvin kid. I don't know if you knew it. He's from Nathan Eovaldi's from Alvin, and Nolan Ryan's also from Alvin. But man, this freaking baseball team and this freaking life that we chose, Fellowship of the Diehards, every now and then, it's mostly sadness. Former roomie Marcus just texts me, sports suck. You know what? You're getting me fired up because sports really do suck. Okay. They're terrible. They're awful. But every now and then, if you're doing this fandom thing right, this is why I've quieted down a lot over the years about bandwagon police, because you know what? Whatever makes you happy, go. Root for your team. Just respect other teams rooting. And that's what I've done. But on the other side of it, when you stick with a team forever, and when you have, I'm not going to get into the other part. I'm saving that for later, and it might not ever be talked about, but I'll save that. It's special, and it means a lot when you root for it the whole way. Thought I could freaking get through it, but yeah, sports are fun.
Sports are fun for you now. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because when the Astros won it, I know you don't count it, but after all the years, then that was just awesome. Like, there wasn't anything like that. Like, my team's won all kinds of titles in the mid-'90s. We talked about the Rockets winning a couple, the Cowboys winning 3. And, when you're a teenager, it just seems like, oh, yeah, this is kind of what happens. And then you realize you get to nearly 40, and you're like, man, why am I still watching this? And this is exactly what you're talking about. To your other point on Bochy, I know this is fresh in the moment, but I thought he just completely outmanaged Dusty Baker. And maybe that's more Astro Baker type thing, but he just pushed all the right buttons while the Astros were getting bashed out there by their number 5 and 6 starters to totally put the game away yesterday. And so, I mean, I don't think that's news that Bochy is probably going to go down as a better manager than Baker in the history of sports, just because the success he's had with teams, and his teams have been good. Don't put it by me, but it's not like he was Joe Torre out there coaching the 96 to 2000 Yankees to the title. Yeah. So, that was the other obvious. And Garcia, man, that was that was a masterclass by him. Although it was a good thing for them that he came up and hit another home run yesterday, because that looked pretty bad when he sat there and watched the ball hit off the top of the wall while he was standing at home plate. So, just for future reference, he might want to make sure that those things are gone. I mean, that's not a hard fence to hit it over, and he can pimp all he wants after he sees it goes over. If he wants to stop after he's rounded first base, then I'm all for whatever he wants to do. Like, I'm not the Astro fan that says, no, you go out there and you play the game the right way, because he's done that forever. I remember we were at a game, maybe it was a couple of years ago. It was when the Rangers were really bad, but we were sitting there.
Which year?
Well, I mean, he was there, so I think it was maybe 2021, but they had the highlight video of him, and I'd never seen him before. So I think it was his rookie year, and he was doing exactly that at the time. And you're like, yeah, he's that kind of guy. And I was like, go for it. Because at the time they didn't have a lot of it and they needed it. And so for any Astro fans that say, well, he's just living in that moment, that's exactly who he is. He's going to let you know about it, and all power to him. If you back it up, then you can do what you want.
Yeah, and like I think I said in a matter of ways the other night, I'm a Rangers fan and I don't like it so much too, but that is what it is right now. And that's what you get from him. That's what you get on the other side of it. And to the Bochy note, and I did want to get on Dusty and where the Astros stand now here in just a matter of seconds, but the emotion that was in game 6 with Garcia and getting the golden frickin' sombrero in the first 4 at-bats and then leveling off his swing. It didn't take a baseball genius to see that flattened out his stroke and he got the grand slam. Probably didn't figure into the kind of outcome of that game, even though it was decided, but it was a pretty tense game still. And he got that grand slam to really let him breathe deeper. I think that carried over into the next game. And I heard somewhere in all the broadcasting and Rangers narrowcasting, I guess, and my consumption of the media, that Bochy's like, hey, like, in the big leagues, it's not like college where they're wagging their finger and they're going to say, now you do this or what. That didn't happen that way, probably obvious in the big, like with the egos involved, they come to you and they make those switches. But Bochy kind of went up and was like, hey, settle down, do this here, X, Y, and Z. And obviously Donnie Eckler, the offensive coordinator, they call him for some reason, he talked about in the post game after game 7, just the amazing heroics of Garcia. But yeah, that's the crazy swing of emotions you get with him. And he's certainly riding high. So let's hope it ends the same way for the Rangers that it did for Garcia. But I had to mention Evan Carter. My goodness, I don't know where the Rangers are without Garcia going down. If he doesn't go down in September, I don't know if Evan Carter comes up. I just don't know if he comes up and the difference he made. He didn't have the best of series, but in game 7 of an ALCS, he's freaking hitting 3-hole. What world does that happen for a guy that has less than, 50 years of big league experience? And then Corey Seager got it started. He had the homer. He had 3 hits. It wasn't the best of series overall in the combo of Semien and Seager, but Seager, man, when he hit that homer, that really set the tone for the guys. And in our Tom Verducci and Buster Olney here in our great baseball insight, we're always talking about, you know what? I think whoever gets the first runs of the game is going to win. Hey, shocker, whoever gets the most offense, but they got that early offense because of Seager setting that tone after he kind of floated a couple turds earlier in the series. So you got to go, or I don't know.
I'm good for a few minutes. That first inning, full disclosure, family pictures turned into family dinner. So I was eating.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, I was watching on my phone while we were eating. So the top of the first inning was on my phone at Cafe Del Rio, and it was 3-0 before I walked out. And I was like, well, I guess if it's going to start like this, then I might as well not be sitting in front of my TV. But yeah, I mean, that was, like you said, Captain Obvious, but knocking out Javier after he got 1 out wasn't ideal for the Astros because they've got a great bullpen, but they don't have an 8 2/3 cover that type of bullpen. So
yeah,
getting the big lead. I say getting the big league. The Astros were in there until about the 4th inning when they had the big inning, but they're just out there using a bunch of guys that hadn't really been needed since the middle of September. Some of the rookies that kind of ran out of steam, and so the Rangers putting 3 on Javier, getting him out of the game because Javier's the kind of pitcher he can get through that inning and then he'll go 4 more shutout innings. So if he could have got out of the first inning, there's a chance that he gets out there.
Yeah.
If he could have got out of the first inning, yeah, it could be 4-1 in the 5th inning or whatever, and then the Astros just have to cover the 4 innings and then hope their offense scores 4 runs like they did. So no, that was massive for them to get him out of the game after 1 out.
Yeah, I made a mental note that I call a lot of college baseball games, about half 100 of them during the season, and that had a lot of feeling like a midweek game. Rice is playing at Texas A&M, and the starters don't go into the 2nd inning or out of the 3rd, and you rely on the bullpen, just flip a coin and see what happens. It had that weird feel, relying so much on the bullpens because Scherzer did not give the Rangers much. And like you just said, I thought, man, I've seen enough of Javier to know he's really good and that if he gets out of this and finds his way, he'll be okay. But the one note I did, not to put the thumb in the eye again, but one thing where was that note? Javier's 3rd of an inning. The last time a starter went less than an inning in a game 7 was in the 1945 World Series when Cubs starter old crazy Hank Bowlery did not retire a batter. So that's the kind of historically short start that Javier made. And just asking out of Astros ignorance, why did it take so long? You know me, leave it to JP to really blow things for people. It seemed like when France was in there, he was in there in the fourth when the Rangers really, really opened it up. Why did it take so long for France to come in? They showed Urquidy warming up. I thought France either would have come in earlier, or I know Urquidy had a shorter rest than France did, but again, second guessing in hindsight is for losers. But I just didn't see the math in that. But I'm really not criticizing. I truly, like the late great John Outlaw said, I know I don't know. I don't know why that move was made. So what's Astros Josh think from that angle?
It's just weird. There aren't many great options. Like Hunter Brown's a good short option. He gave up the home run.
Because they're all righties.
Yeah, they're all righties. But yeah, Brown gave up the home run in the one inning. And they pulled him after two. I thought they'd go with him for a little bit longer. And then when they put out France, you're hoping you can get 2 or 3 innings. But whenever he showed he was just going to get bashed, I was surprised they left him out there to get it to 8-2 or 8-1 or whatever it was. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of nitpicky.
Yeah.
In terms of what you do. Like I kind of think maybe if you had it to do over again, which hindsight's always great, then maybe you go with some of your bigger bullpen guys to try to get through the third, fourth, fifth innings just to keep it close to where it's actually a game, but then you're rolling the dice for later in the game you don't know. So it's always a ton easier to manage it afterwards. And there were some things that I probably would have done differently, but at the same time, I don't have all the knowledge that all those guys do. And the Astros have 3 really, really, really good options in the bullpen, and you're not covering 8 2/3 innings with 3 guys because they're not going to last. So after he goes out with 1 out in the first inning, it's just kind of pick your poison. Like you're going to have lulls where you got to hope the Rangers just miss some pitches, and they didn't miss just a ton of them last night.
No, they didn't. And for those just popping on along the way, it's what I said at the very start. That game summed up what the Rangers season was. That for those that didn't watch 80 or 90% of the games like I did during the season, most of them at least, and obviously every pitch in the postseason, except for, I guess, game 4 when I had the other day job. But it didn't matter if I watched much of game 4. That summed up the Rangers season. They had an historically great offense leading in every category except homers, but then they had, I forget which metric and which way you line the stats, but it was the worst bullpen ever. Like it was awful. It was terrible. They showed their hiney a little bit this series, but it carried them in Tampa Bay and it carried them in the Baltimore series, but that game last night, that was what 2023 Rangers baseball was. But we have a lot. We could still get to a lot. I don't want to make this thing, thankfully, hey, coincidence? We revamp the Texas Porch Podcast and Mr. Texas gets a pennant for his team. I don't know. I'm just floating that out there into the ether as well, too. But
it's definitely all you. I don't think if you didn't have this, they were motivated by it. So that got them, they weren't going to be motivated. And then you got it together and then they're like, oh, well, better go get to the World Series. Let's just hope they said, let's win the World Series instead of just get to it. Cause that would be not so great.
Yeah. That's a later pot. That's coming. Don't you think I've changed my defeatist sports mindset? That doesn't go away, but I am happy in this moment. Okay. I do want to get to this fodder because, the reports are coming out now that Dusty Baker will not be back with the Astros. And again, that's worthy of a whole pod in itself. Petty guy that I am, it's like, do you have to bring that up now? But hey, we live in a world of pettiness. That's fine. And I think he's a really good human being. So I think there was nothing malicious about it. But CBS Sports and The Athletic both reporting that he told a lot of people inside and outside the organization that this was his last year. So I think I know what a lot of Astros fans and Astros Nation will be happy with that. I wish you could have been a fly on the wall of our dinner conversation last week when I was engulfed by Astros and Yankees fandom. It was great. It's kind of like I want this show to be, get a lot of voices and opinions going back and forth, get that, but that's down the road. We'll worry about that then. But I kind of know your answer, like the dust, what I think you'll say. Let's predict it. I think you'll say, and what Astros fans will say, it's good. Thank you, Dusty, for the title last year. He came in at a really tough time when the Astros really needed an image boost. Your thoughts on Dusty probably hanging him up now, and the timing of it, I guess, is obvious. But
yeah, you're right on. Like, as much as a lot of people bash Dusty for, don't play Diaz, get onto him for everyday lineup decisions, I think he for this team he was so much more than it, because he came in 2020 after the obvious cheating scandal and everything. And I don't know if a young manager or somebody gets them through that the way he did, because I mean that could crater pretty easily. And he comes out there and he's taking the bullets for guys. I mean, he wasn't around and he's sitting there defending and all that. He's the ultimate team guy. And just to have it pay off of the World Series last year, him finally getting one as a manager. He had one as a player, but that was really special to see. And I mean, once he won one, he'd already said, if I win one, I'm going to try to win another one. And so he wasn't retiring last year, but I have a feeling, my feeling was like, even early in the year, this is probably it. Like even before the year, that this is probably, I mean, he's up there in age too. He's in his 70s. So I'm hoping kind of the plan was handed off to Espada, the Astros bench coach. I don't know if that's going to be what it is, just somebody that's been through it before with that team. But at the same time, Jim Crane likes big hires. So I don't know exactly if you want to go out there and get that. But if you get that, then you're probably losing some bench coaches that would be like Espada, to be head coach candidates somewhere. So it'd be kind of restarting that. So in an ideal world, him stepping down and them keeping it within the system, I think would be best. But who knows? I'm fairly certain. Like, I wasn't shocked at all last night when I heard the reports that said Dusty Baker told many people that this was his last year. I think probably a part of the team knew that, and I think if he was more of a me first type guy, he might have just gone ahead and said last night that he's retiring. This is it. But letting the Astros get through this, letting the Rangers have their moment, make it not all about him. So I wouldn't be shocked if shortly after the World Series, he comes out and says that's it. I don't know, maybe even before the World Series, but I don't think he'll pull A-Rod and announce during Game 2 of some series that right during it that he's going to retire. But
I mean, it's pretty much out there, Josh. I mean, you go to The Athletic. I'm on CBS Sports. It came out a few hours ago that Astros does okay. This is what the 2023 media does. Mulling retirement, reportedly. I'm a guy that wonders, that dang A&M Commerce education got to me be a good critical thinker, I think. Could that have explained, those that know inside the Astros clubhouse, hey, he's a short timer, and could that probably, but that wouldn't explain specifically losing at home, and he still got them to the ALCS. I'm kind of thinking of this on the fly. Maybe that would explain part of the reasons for the struggles, but again, that wouldn't explain how they owned what y'all call Minute Maid North up there off 360 and I-30 there. It just seems, still some East Texas State University. I was the last class of East Texas State, Mop. You were a few ahead of me, but
it's I mean, you always want to blame it on something. They just, quite honestly, and I don't think this is, oh God, I hope that's not true.
Aaron Boone, no Aaron Boone.
I just think, people like to put blame in different places. They just weren't the same team as they were last year. Like, I was, even before, this was before yesterday's game, talking with a friend, and I was like, man, they just hadn't seemed to have it. And out of all that, they're still a game away from being in the World Series. Like, I kind of expected them to win last night, but at the same time, I also said this is about as fitting as it could get, as if they just went out there and laid an egg. It's not like they were world beaters all year. this is probably the worst they played since 2016, whenever they didn't make the playoffs. So um, I think as much as I'm saying about Baker, maybe it's time for him to retire. I mean, for him to get a team within a win of the World Series, that didn't play all that well all year. Probably not the best 3 or 4 in the American League overall, if we're being honest. They kind of held it together with duct tape and almost still got to the World Series.
Yeah, and part of what I contributed to that great off mic conversation with some friends last week just about Dusty is that guys love playing for him. They love playing for him. I've got to know Paul Yanish really well at Rice, and he played 3 years for Dusty Baker in Cincinnati and could not speak more highly of a manager that he played for, and that he just connects with each guy so well, like Bochy does. And obviously Dusty will do it in a different way, but man, as good as a connector you are, sometimes it's time. And he could be 47 and not 74 or whatever his age, like he could be 30 years younger. Sometimes it's just time. Like Bruce Bochy didn't work out after going to a World Series in San Diego. Bochy had 3 losing seasons to end his stint in San Francisco, but started with the Rangers, will end with the Rangers too. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have more Dusty talk later on. But I'm a happy camper, Josh. Most know already what I feel about you, but thanks for being a sounding board and sports manning up. And I'm just glad no one else fell through an attic again. So you got to take your family pictures again. Well, we do need to get to that story, but we become a bit of a baseball pod, and gotta tell you, I'm not unhappy about it. I kind of like this baseball talk. Who the Cowboys playing anyway this week? Who the Cowboys playing?
They're playing the Rams, I believe.
No, I know. Yeah.
No, it's been a lot of fun. Maybe we can wrap up some World Series games. Although day job's going to take us out of the first weekend, I'm sure. So you might be you're very capable of handling it on your own. I am not capable of handling it on my own. So
yeah, Josh, do a Rangers post-game pod after they go up 2-0. Right. That's the next storyline of this. We'll do a separate preview edition coming up here. We'll talk about Josh and our moving fun. Mitch and I meeting up at the state fair, and why Josh yanked a woman through an attic to get out of family picture.
Let's clarify. It didn't actually happen that way. Just need that sound clip out there.
All right, guys. Yes. I did have the Nadell clip on our first attempt at streaming this one live. So that gets edited into the podcast only version. All right, Joshua, salute to you. Thanks for coming on.
Good luck, Rangers. I can't say I'm rooting for them totally, but I'm rooting for them for your sake.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, we never got to the story when I bought a T-shirt for Josh the night the Astros won it the first time. But
that is true.
Anywho, I will get some new Rangers gear. I sure won't be going to the game, as I did check the cocaine and boob job crowd in Dallas will be heading over there. That's an old Dallas radio term. Those that know, IYKYK. If you know, you know. So yeah, I like being in my happy spot on my couch. So when things go wrong, I can say, I think it's going to be the Phillies, Mom. I think it's the Phillies. I'm hoping the Diamondbacks, that will be easier for us, but I'm thinking it's the Phillies because why not, right? Why not endure more sports misery in the most miserable city that there ever has been? A new audience is getting to hear this rant. Maybe we'll go viral with that rant, but I don't know. That's thinking very highly of us by saying anything's going viral. Please like it. It helps out the AI overlords here on Facebook and YouTube. and the Texas Porch Podcast as well. We've gone over time. Thank you very much, Josh, for putting up with my shenanigans and staying late. Appreciate you, man. Talk to you soon.
Anytime. See you soon.
Have a great rest of this day or night. God bless you. God bless Texas. We'll talk to you next time out here on the Texas Porch. Rangers 1-7.
I'm sad.